background. When I say that, that's the organization that I work for. That's SAS. So what I thought that we could all benefit from is industry view of how AI and analytics is having an impact on both innovation and entrepreneurship. So in the next hour or so, I'll be really talking about the big picture. What's the impact that artificial intelligence is having, not just on the industry, but also on our society. And hopefully, somewhere along the way, you realize that how technology like these are shaping our lives, and you start to care about it a little more than what you have been so far. How many computer students are there as part of this audience here? Super. And are you also studying AI and machine learning as part of what you're doing here?
Next year.
Next year. Oh, perfect. So, perfect. Then I think what we'll do is we talk about the bigger picture. We'll talk about. I'll set some context around artificial intelligence for you. I'm sure as you go along your course, you realize that there's so much foundation to be really built around artificial intelligence, machine learning, and stuff like deep learning. Right? So let's get into it. All right. Before I go ahead, we'd love to understand if people know about SAS. How many of you really know about SAS? One. So, perfect. That's what I expected. That's the reason I put this slide. Because it's important for you to understand the context from where I'm coming from. So this is just a one slider on SAS, and the reason I put this out there is because for you to understand the history behind this organization. So we've been in the area of analytics and artificial intelligence for the last 46 years. Right? We founded in 1976. And for the last 44 years, till the pandemic hit us, we were on a growth streak. So there was a continued revenue growth that happened between 1976 and 2020. When we started, in fact, there wasn't really a term called analytics. It was called statistics. But now we've moved on to talk about terms like analytics, reporting, business intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, so on and so forth. So the point I'm trying to say is that 44 years of growth would have happened only because this particular field has steadily seen a high amount of interest, both from the industry as well as from academia. That's the reason we have been able to grow so fast. As an organization, we have around 11,500 employees across the globe. We are $3.2 billion in revenue, and that happens to be one of the largest privately held software companies around the world. Most of the work that we do happens to be on the background, and hence you wouldn't have heard about us. But we are present in 146 countries where we are running on 80,000 customer sites. So a huge footprint across industries, and we have impacted many such industries. I will be talking about that a little bit because what I'm here to share with you is really examples of how the industry are using us. Right? Great. So these are all the stats. But why do we really exist? We exist because there is a problem. And this is the problem that's happening right here, right now. Every single moment, every single minute, we are seeing a tremendous amount of data getting generated. 64,000 Instagram stories, over 5 million YouTube videos are being watched, over 181 million emails that are getting sent. What that means is that we're seeing a volume of data that has been never seen in history of mankind. and at a speed that is unprecedented. We are also dealing with a heavy amount of variety of data. That means unstructured data, reduction, and changes in the way data is flowing. So every time there's a big news coming in, Project Federal decides to retire, there's a spike in data. The Queen passes away, spike in data. And finally, veracity data. Not all of this data that is coming out is really of high quality. What I mean by that is it's not good enough to get analyzed. And that's where quality of data becomes a challenge for many organizations. So let's look at a couple of examples which will just talk about this. Right? So this is a basic case study where SAS worked with the Aadhaar project. Right? So I'll allow this to load a little bit. Hopefully it should come on any moment. But this case study will give you a perspective of the challenges of a project like Aadhaar.
India is one of the world's largest and fastest growing countries. The population is estimated to be 1.27 billion. Maharashtra, the second largest province, has some 120 million people. Keeping track of this growing population has been a challenge. There are records such as a health-related database and voter list databases, but never a consolidated database for the entire population. So the government formed a program called UID to create a unique ID for every citizen.
Across the country, we have captured about 500 million people's biometrics, which now makes it much bigger than any other biometric database in the world.
The government of Maharashtra is setting up a whole ecosystem around the UID initiative. They want to use the database to send subsidy funds to qualified citizens via direct deposit. The biometric-based UID database reduces the chance of fraud and error.
If you link biometric system with it, which is basically fingerprints, iris and face, apart from your demographic data, that really trims down this list by 20 to 30%.
So the government of Maharashtra turned to SAS for a data management solution.
So that is where products like SAS really come in handy. So we have been playing around with big databases, and that is where we found as a product, especially in deduping the names along with the addresses, etc. So we have actually seen such cases where somebody pretended to work in 2 different districts his entire life and nobody caught it out. Now when we are moving towards centralized databases, obviously it is easier to catch these.
The project is a success at several levels. The savings are significant, but the impact is also felt at the individual level for the citizens of Maharashtra.
So it is to the tune of $50 billion every year. So, and if we assume that 20% of it goes to wrong people, and use of technology can save even half of that, let us say we can save $4, $5, $6 billion every year by using technology properly. So that's a very good investment, good ROR, and that money which is saved can be pushed into infrastructure, better roads, better hospitals, better schools.
Cleaning up the database posed several challenges. For example, there were often 30 to 40 variations on spellings of common names. There were, on average, 20 different spellings for the same village name. And in some cases, there were many more.
For example, even the state name Maharashtra, we found it's unbelievable. It's about 690 variations. So where really SAS help in making all 60 million people, basically these 690 variations became one standard name.
With the emergence of mobile devices and the need for a more hands-on approach to analytics for decision makers, the government of Maharashtra is looking at SAS visual analytics as a solution.
They want more data on their fingertips. So we are looking at using visual analytics.
The teams from Maharashtra and SAST have worked closely together and have formed.
I hope you got the message, right? So what are the two V's that he talked about here? Can anyone tell me what are the two V's that were challenged here? He talked about 5 V's. The previous slide. Volume. Okay. Volume. One more. Who's entering the cities. Now, here in the metro cities, it's a very different ballgame because we know our data very well. He might turn the screen after you put in the data for you to recheck. You're okay with it, it goes into the database. But imagine this happening in the rural areas, where possibly the most educated person in that room would be the person entering the data. There's no one else to recheck, confirm the data. That's the problems that it can cause at scale. Right? 120 million citizens just in Maharashtra. Imagine what's happening at the database scale of 1 billion people. Right? So that's the scale problem that we have. Let's look at one more case study which is a little more recent one, and you might connect to this. This is some of the work that we have done with the government of Odisha, right? And how it talks about how analytics can impact each one of us.
Today, information has the power to shape our lives. This was most visible during the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The sheer number of patients getting admitted to inpatient wards was overwhelming during these 2 waves of COVID-19. But that is what sets a pandemic apart from any other form of public healthcare crisis. These were the days when ICU beds, ventilators in some facilities faced acute shortages.
So the challenge for us was to provide accurate information to public and for the government officers as well. Now getting all this information was a Herculean task. Now every day we used to generate multiple level of information of very deep kinds, and they needed to be the backbone of decision making for the government.
We were having 3 critical issues which had to be resolved immediately. Availability of beds in real time at hospital level, city level, block level, district level and state level. We needed data and we needed to understand it quickly. We also needed data on doctors, hospital staff and medical facilities so that we could prioritize issues when they get escalated.
That's why we created an interactive dashboard that captures key matrices for all COVID-related data. The simple visual representation, along with drill-down capabilities, allowed the decision makers to understand the situation instantly. The insights from our dashboard and simulation capabilities allowed different government departments to collaborate better. It also established clear communication channels with the citizens to keep them safe and informed throughout the pandemic.
COVID-19 ने जेतोले बापा मां का देह बहुत सीरियस हे गला सेतोले मते एक्चुअली बेड रो दरकार थिला तो मु जाय नथिल जे कोडी बेड मिलुची सेतोले मु जेना ओडिसा सरकार का COVID-19 डैशबोर्ड चेक कली सेठी मते स्पष्ट भाबरे इंफॉर्मेशन थिला जे को हॉस्पिटल रे केते बेड अवेलेबिलिटी अछि तापरे मु तारी सेही इंफॉर्मेशन पई मु बापा मां को नेगिरी हॉस्पिटल रे एडमिशन कली आ बहुत भलो से भी ट्रीटमेंट हेला.
We built on the initial work and included other related factors too, like getting a better idea of people who needed support, such as stranded visitors, better knowledge of returning migrants, simulation analysis to explore the impact of different lockdown situations, to effectively balance public safety and economic activities.
We made oxygen concentrators available for free for public through the dashboard. So all that you needed to do is register yourself there in the COVID platform, and the oxygen concentrator would be delivered at your home free of cost And when you call them up and tell them that your work is done, they will pick it back.
The weapon that we could use to fight against the pandemic. So this particular case study was made by Better India. They're the ones who found this to be really interesting. Later on, MIT went on to write a paper about this particular dashboard and how effective it was. Stanford wrote another piece on how this happens to be one of the best implementations and use of data, best implementations of analytics and use of data against the pandemic. So, point being that today this has gone beyond the hands of a few data scientists or some analysts sitting somewhere, right? Data analytics is now a boardroom conversation in organizations. Governments are taking this up seriously as you can see. Both will come with case studies. And that's the sort of impact that is having on society at large. So that's a little bit about how we've been working with analytics. And this is quite simply a snapshot of, for you just to have a look at the sort of depth and breadth of industries that are using analytics. Forget about, I'm not here to sell SaaS, right? That's not the point. The point is that for you to understand the sort of industries and sort of organizations that are using analytics is there everywhere. Whether it's banks, which for example HSBC is using analytics to predict and protect their customers from fraud. So any credit card fraud, the alerts tend to get sent to a central database. There's a contact center that reaches out to you to understand if it's genuinely you who have made that transaction, and only then is that transaction passed. And this happens only and only when your behavior changes, which means in case you're making a set of transactions which are in US dollars out of the blue, you've been always transacting in rupees, you're making a transaction in US dollars, they will call you up to ensure that's you. That's where analytics comes in handy. Similarly, typically you can spend between, let me say, 3,000 and 10,000 now, and suddenly there's a swipe of 75,000 rupees. Someone will reach out to you. And that's all happening in the back end with use of analytics. Similarly, Suzuki is looking to understand which model of Ertiga and of what color will sell 1 month down the line in Japan. So that's the sort of work that they're doing. Based on that information, they're placing orders to their suppliers and also shipping it to the dealers. So it's absolutely critical work that is happening and that's driving some of this information. Alright. So what about AI? Alright. We talked a little bit about analytics. We saw how it is put into practice today. So what about AI? What is AI? Now a few years ago, whenever I talked about artificial intelligence in 2016, 2017, it always conjured up an image, something like this. No matter where I went, corporates, this was the image that they're thinking robotics, they're thinking killer machines, they're thinking Terminator. And that's all because, unfortunately, Hollywood was ahead of us. They talked about robotics much before artificial intelligence really became popular. And they came out with movies like this one. So we suffer from a very strong hangover of Hollywood movies. But truth be told, this is not artificial intelligence. We're not talking about killer robots moving around freely. That's not where we are today. But the tricky part is that whenever I think about artificial intelligence, what I've realized is that the definition itself keeps changing. And that's because every time we achieve today's definition of artificial intelligence, we quite simply stop calling it artificial intelligence at all. So In years past, it used to be playing games like chess with a computer.